But the problem is that in this scenario, to use your metaphor, the US has the bigger gun, and so China ends up having more to lose from this trade war, doesn't it?
So, if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, China will say it's 15%.
We don't care. We don't.
God damn. The amount of aura in this clip is just crazy. I mean, the US brought it to itself. I'm gonna be honest. Why would you engage in tariff wars with China? There are plenty of other ways you can deal with their global dominance if their global rise is scaring you. What you guys don't realize is the US in this is losing more than China, even though it looks the opposite. That's what most people like this lady don't understand. And you will understand why in a minute. 20 million jobs are on the line because they rely on Chinese importation to America. What we're looking at is Chinese factories giving free open vacations to its employees because of the massive wave of order cancellations of US buyers and retailers from them. Even retailers selling on platforms like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Temu or Shein. All of them would be forced to increase their prices to what the US has set in tariffs, which is 245%. Something they can't survive with. Because it means if you bought a fancy snitch, aka smart speaker of Amazon, and that's before all this happened, for $60, it's actually the price, not hypothetical. The price would be $269, which is crazy. So China's escalation was a big mistake. And the country is playing with a freaking losing hand. And that's not me who says this, but Treasury Secretary. Except for Fricky. I wanted to spice things up a bit. So what we'd be looking at is that the lady was right. US's gun is bigger than China's. That still we realize there is something even crazier. 75% of products sold by wholesalers and retailers on Amazon are produced in China. And over 50% of top Amazon sellers in the US are now based in China. We're talking the largest e-commerce platform not only in the US, but the entire world. It's not online shopping anymore. It's international relations. Bruh. So China's pistol against the US would be like this. And hold on, because it's about to get even crazier. Indeed, US sells more to China, but it's about who needs the other more in these traded products more than it is about who sells more. 95% of the world's production of rare earths that's essential for electronics, defense systems, and renewable energy technologies are produced by China as a simple example. Which is why when China put limits on selling them after tariffs war, companies like Tesla had to stop getting some of the parts they need for their electric trucks. That's because the US is entirely dependent on China's rare earths exports like gallium and graphite used in semiconductors and batteries. That's besides 78% of seafood, 97% of US antibiotics like penicillin and amoxicillin, and 50% of smartphones in the US with 80% Chinese production. That's including Apple, which is why President Trump exempted them from his tariffs. While its trades with the US are mainly natural resources like soybeans and meat, or planes and cars, which are easily replaceable. Unlike other things, which they entirely rely on the US for, like technologies related to semiconductors. What? They invented that too? China was forced to look for alternatives or produce its own semiconductors after previous US administration sanctions. An eye for an eye is China's response. You do 30%, we do 30%. 60%, 60%. 245%, we will US tariffs are pushing its allies away from it, as it's possible we could see a new economic bloc for these countries with China instead of the US, almost like BRICS. And President Xi has already been doing that, as he visited recently many countries around the world, while at the same time sending presidential letters to Europe telling them to stand together against US tariffs. Because China understands really well these countries will ultimately look out for their own interests. President Trump's tariffs attack on China could also push it into developing itself in many fields, including semiconductors. So even if it looks like both are in harm short term, the US is the losing one long term. Because history has proven when Spain trying to choke Europe economically by hoarding insane amount of gold and silver from the Americas, they flooded Europe with so much precious metal that gold became worthless, causing massive inflation. And over time Spain became weaker because they didn't industrialize. Meanwhile, countries like England and the Netherlands used financial innovation like banks and stock markets to thrive. Or Napoleon too, who tried to cut Britain off from European trade. It hurt Britain at first, but Britain pivoted hard, boosting global trade instead, naval dominance, and eventually triggering the Industrial Revolution. Meanwhile, Napoleon allies like Spain and Russia started revolting against him because the blockade ruined their economies too. So Trump must be afraid of China as a strangled country instead of being afraid of China as a relieved country.